This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, use the Kohlrabi code.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that is the ideal podcast, and you may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. My name is Gep, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And this week we've got the war game episode.
Yes. Where we don't have the board with the little pieces and tens of thousands of rules, but we got spaceships pretending to shoot at each other until they do, kind of.
Yeah, or we could teach a computer that peace is good because tic-tac-toe.
Yes, but we'll cover that eventually.
So this is peak performance, you might have guessed, because otherwise the memes.
Mm-hmm.
The memes.
Yes, the memes. I'm going to flex now. Don't mind me. I'm just, hitting peak performance here.
This was written by David Kemper, who's best known for his work on Farscape. He's also worked on SeaQuest and
DSV.
Stargate SG-1.
Excellent.
Which I should have looked that up, because there's a Stargate SG-1 episode that is also war games. Should have seen if he was involved in that.
Yeah. Well, I do recall, on the Farscape side of things, specifically, a whole bunch of episodes was like the executive producer and things like that. But was also like involved in the Farscape sort of mini-series movie thing, the Peacekeeper Wars. As far as SG-1, I'm trying to come up with the thing here real quick. They were in There But the Grace of God, which I don't remember what that one's about. Oh, that's the one where Daniel goes to the other universe, like the parallel dimension stuff.
Oh,
it's like,
right, that.
Yes. And then apparently wrote part of Citizen Joe.
Citizen Joe was some sort of was one of those weird Earth conspiracy ones, I think.
Yes. Man breaks into Jack's house and holds him at gunpoint, claiming that Jack ruined his life. 7 years ago, he came upon an ancient artifact at a garage sale that allows him to see all of SG-1's missions. Whoops.
Yeah, that one. That was their clip show. One of their clip shows.
Yes. Yeah, that clip shows. That seems weirdly topical right now, given where we are in TNG here. But
spoilers.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Yes. Never mind.
Spoiling.
He also wrote...
There's no portents. There's no ill omen.
But yeah, he also wrote like some for like Voyager and Swamp Thing TV series, Silk Stockings, Tour of Duty.
Has anyone ever seen the Swamp Thing TV series?
No. Hunter. There was another one. Mantis. That's it. That's all I was thinking about. The one with the guy who's like in a wheelchair, but he gets like this exoskeleton thing and becomes a superhero.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of enjoyed it.
Let's see. Yeah, I can't even find... Now they're making, like, a new Swamp Thing because of Marvel shit, so I can't even find pictures of the 90s Swamp Thing TV show.
Well, I actually got a couple pictures here. It looks 90s.
Ooh, oh, my God. There's one. Found it. What the...
It's like, he kind of looks like a lot of plant matter just kind of congealed together and
glued together onto a suit.
So like a whole set of it.
Good job. Okay, sure. Okay, yep, that's something. Anyway, we've got guest stars.
Yes. In fact, a couple of them we've technically seen before.
Yep, because they don't like remaking makeup. So we've got Roy Brocksmith, who plays Sarna Karami, who is the like alien, the like main alien dude we're getting this episode.
Yes, the friendly alien dude that
sort of.
Yeah, he's the center of attention and he's on the good guys' side, so he's friendly enough.
The standoffish alien dude.
Yes.
He's a very known. He's a very well-known actor because he's been in a lot of films and TV shows. We saw him in Total Recall.
Yes.
Which comes out after this, I think. Yep.
Not by very much long.
And I just liked that he has a credit in the 98 movie Psycho as man in cowboy hat outside of Realty Office. He's also been in stuff like Babylon 5, Wonder Years, Tales from the Crypt. He's just around. He's one of those character actors that's just in everything.
Yes, a White Dwarf had a role in there, and it's one of those made-for-TV movies that's kind of awesome, but is like, all right, this kind of feels like they're trying to kick off a whole series, but it's a little ambitious for when they put it together. But I really rather enjoyed his particular role in Babylon 5, where he's playing Brother Alwyn Macumber, in an episode that's basically we're going to jump forward various points into the future after the series concludes effectively, and look to see what's happening. And this is the one that's 1,000 years on after the Earth has been ravaged by a massive war and thrown back into sort of a medieval era of technology. And he is like a secret agent working for the people that don't live on Earth anymore, trying to help foster a new renaissance on the planet.
Kind of interesting.
Yes. And, he's being all secretive, and thus there's a camera watching the whole thing, but, the guy he's talking to doesn't know what a camera is, so.
Now, we've also got 2 Ferengi, because there's also Ferengi. There's always Ferengi. Still haven't given up on the Ferengi yet.
They're still a dangerous force that we have to watch out for.
Sort of, yeah. We got David Lander, Ferengi tactical officer. He's best known for playing Squiggly in Laverne and Shirley. I've never seen Laverne and Shirley. I've seen people making fun of Laverne and Shirley.
Yes, it's one of those things that I remember seeing random parts of and mostly remember the opening sequence.
And then we have the Ferengi, the one and only Ferengi, the one that's played, what is he, like 4 different Ferengi?
At least.
We've got Armin Sherman is back now playing for the Ferengi Braktor.
Braktor!
It's different than the one in the other one, and the one from the next time, and the one from the time after that.
It's like, we'll use slightly different hues, and it's totally different Ferengi, we promise.
I mean, it's just great because they gave the Ferengi such bad direction in Next Gen that all of his Ferengi voices in this are just like, you humans. So when he just talks normal in DS9, it's completely unrecognizable.
Yes. Now, I do appreciate, we've already mentioned a few of the things before that he showed up in, but he's also done voice over work for video games. He was in BioShock, for instance. Guess who he was in that?
I haven't played BioShock in too long.
Well, so there's like 4 or 5 characters technically. Dr. Suchon, he's not that.
No.
There's Atlas, he's not that. He's not the the secret alternative to Atlas either. He's not the scientist lady. So who is left?
Now I'm having trouble. Main dude? The guy who's not Howard Hughes?
Yes, Andrew Ryan. Yes, he was Andrew Ryan. So that I don't recognize his voice in that. It's just crazy like that.
I mean, that's voice acting for you.
Yes. He was also in BioShock 2, oddly enough.
For some reason, people from DS9 voice not Howard Hughes in video games quite frequently.
Yes.
It's just a niche for some reason.
Yeah, just how these things work out sometimes. Also, is Dr. Nefarious in Ratchet and Clank. Huh.
Never played those.
A lot of fun.
I didn't have a PlayStation in that era of video games.
Neither did I technically. I eventually picked one up and started buying old games at resale places.
I need to get around to it because I have I've got the PS5's subscription thingy for old games. So I should get back around to that at some point.
Yeah, I'd recommend the series.
Whenever I'm done with my 6th playthrough of Baldur's Gate.
Roll for initiative, Gepwin.
Eventually they'll make a good Star Trek game again.
Like the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, I used to have the point and click ones. I forget what that was called. Then the Star Trek point and click adventure games. Those were good. And I had one for the Game Boy that was fun, but I didn't have the instruction manual because I got it used, and you were supposed to solve a lot of situations by hailing the other ship and talking to them. But I could not ever figure out what the command to hail the other ship was. So the Romulans would show up and hail you, and I could not ever figure out how you're supposed to answer the hail, and then they'd just start shooting.
It's like, you've failed to answer the hail. I'm trying to find the button.
It's like, why aren't you hailing us back? We shoot you now. Like, there's only 3 buttons on a Game Boy, and none of them does this.
I have to put in a special sequence or something, I guess.
So anyway, we should do a Star Trek video game special at some point.
Perhaps. Maybe that'll give me an excuse to try out that Star Trek Online that's hot with all the kids these days.
Is it?
I don't know.
Is that what the kids are doing? I've played Star Trek Online a little bit. It's an MMO, as in the way of MMOs.
Yes. Do you get to fly a spaceship?
Sort of. You get to maneuver something that looks sort of like a spaceship along a flat plane.
Oh, well, I guess that's a start. I guess it's sort of like the escape velocity school, really. Just, pretending it's not.
Yeah, basically. Except fewer options, because escape velocity was one of those weird, like, do whatever you want, but with complicated controls kind of games.
Yes.
Like, I always made a pirate fleet. I could capture ships and get 5 of the most powerful ship by my side, and then nothing could challenge me until the one psychic dude showed up, and then you just die.
It's like, oh, you have shields? How quaint.
Anyway, are we enough nerd for you? Is this nerdy enough for you?
Yeah, well, we're having an episode where the main antagonist, aka alien that we already talked about, is on the good guy's side and being really nerdy at everyone at the same time. In the kind of annoying, yes, I'm really good at all this stuff, why are you guys not even trying sort of way. But, it's in theme.
Nice. So we're in episode. We're doing episodes now. This is actually a kind of short synopsis because realistically not a lot happens. This is mostly jokes and some action scenes.
Yes.
Which I can repeat the jokes, but like so much of these jokes are just visual jokes. If I wrote them out, it would be the most boring thing in the world. So the Enterprise is taking part in a war games. It's led by a Zakdorn master strategist named Sinra Kolrami. He is matter of fact to the point of extreme rudeness. He wants to get to work at once. He wants to talk to Picard and Riker in the observation lounge as soon as he comes on board. He's like, stop doing pleasantries. Go away. I hate you.
Yeah, there's no point to them, so let's get to work, guys. Come on. Chop.
When they leave, the rest of the bridge crew all start to comment on the Zakdorn because they are the best natural-born strategists in the galaxy, which is just weird. Well, this species has evolved strategy.
Yes, it's one of those things where everyone has to be a planet of hats, even if it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I mean, you could say that's like a society that highly values strategic thinking, and so teaches it to everyone.
Yeah, especially people that they tend to like the Federation. Like, the Federation doesn't want to, take us over.
It's like one particular kind of strategic thinking. So, it's a master at the game Stratagema, which I guess is impressive because people are like, ooh, whatever Grand Master at Stratagema.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like, me when I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good at EU4. And they're like, how good? Well, I got these number of random achievements here. Like, oh my God. There's people that are more hardcore than me, but okay.
Worf thinks the Zakdorn are weak because they are strategists and not warriors.
Well, Worf, maybe at some point you'll be able to use your superior warriorness in a situation where everyone else is trying to use strategy and, I guess beat up the nerds.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, we'll get into a very minor discussion on the difference between the Zakdorn master strategists and the Klingons who seem to be master tacticians.
Mm-hmm.
But light on the strategy part.
Yes.
So...
I could go into a whole thing there on the Dominion War, but anyway.
So Karami goes into details on this mission they've got. Riker's going to be put in command of an old derelict starship. He and his crew will have a few days to ready it for action, and then they will be attacked by the Enterprise with simulated weapons that are linked to the computers that will shut down various systems for simulated repair times.
Well.
Seems like an unnecessary amount of work when you have...
A holodeck?
Yeah. Video games? You could just... Why? Why do you need to make the entire ship do this?
Well, I guess this sort of situation, calls for the unexpected, I guess. And, if you just simulate it fully, you'll be able to, define things or be limited in your your grittiness of your simulation by the things that you are predefining as part of it. And so by having a ship with potential quirks to it, you might have things happen that you might not expect, and you can make good use of these in your, for good or ill in your battle simulation. But that's in some ways not really helpful for learning base strategy.
Yeah, for what we'll see later, this is much more a test of how well you can repair a ship over what you're good at strategically.
Yes. Yeah, if you wanted to have a good test of the strategic, mettle of, of the participants, actually giving them a sort of a series of different, encounters, including ones where there's a massive mismatch one way and then the other, as well as, straight, even, competitions here. How do you win when you know that that the other side has all the capabilities that you have?
Massively superior firepower.
Yes.
It also doesn't make a lot of sense that, since they're simulating all the weapons and everything, why do they need to repair so much of the ship if everything is being simulated?
Yes.
Anyway, Karami is dubious of Riker because he has a casual command style. However, Picard sees this as a strength, and he's going to see it in full effect as he smooth talks Worf and Geordi into joining his crew. And also recruits Wesley because learning opportunities, and then a few other random people who we don't care about.
Yes.
Because they're not main characters.
Yeah, well, I guess, the Worf and Geordi are pretty obvious. You want, as you mentioned, Klingons tend to be very good at the whole tactical thing, even though Worf is like, I don't know, I want an actual real fight, without the risk of danger, what's the point? But, Riker's like, so you chicken? Mm-hmm. Geordi's like, yeah, sounds like just a whole
yeah,
hoot.
Geordi's like, I already packed. When are we leaving?
Repair a whole ship and get it started from nothing? Heck yeah, count me in.
Riker also challenges Karami to a game of Stratagema. He, of course, has no expectation of winning because Karami is the best player who has ever lived. But he says just getting to face him in a match is a privilege and he can learn from it, etc. Even though he's going to get stomped. The crew chant and cheer him on, etc. for the entire 10 seconds it takes for him to lose the game.
Yes. Given that it takes so long to put the little finger doohickeys on, you might as well do best 10 out of 20 or 19 there or something like that.
Well, it's also interesting given the game times, even if you're massively mismatched at chess or something, you're not going to win the game in 10 seconds unless you make a big mistake or scholars mate somebody.
Yes. You appear to have eaten your own king. Oh, sorry, I thought that was my bagel.
So Pulaski then gets a little bit obsessed with the idea of Data beating Karami to, take him down a peg or two because she's mad at how arrogant he is. Which, interestingly, Pulaski is very, very, the entire rest of the entire series is very, Data is no better than any random computer.
Yeah.
If a computer was capable of beating this dude at Stratagema, it would have by now.
Yes.
So the fact that she suddenly is like so enamored of Data's abilities that she's like, there's no way Data could lose. It's a bit of a strange turnaround. They really cannot peg her character down when it comes to whether or not she's being Data racist.
Yes. It's like, back in elementary Dear Data, it's like, oh, well, maybe Data actually is kind of a person here, but I'm going to still have to do these sort of tests here, and then it gets a little bit more warm after that. And
they
then
didn't really show the character growth. Because like elementary Dear Data is fully incapable of innovative strategic thinking. Mm-hmm. And then now it's like, you would definitely beat the best person who's ever played this game.
Yes, a game that's is reliant on building strategy and creative thinking and all of that, and that's completely different than that thing I said you couldn't do before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Riker and his crew beam over to the Hathaway, which is an old, out-of-date, derelict ship that can barely sustain life support.
So, they're doomed.
Kawami relates that this is in fact the point, because if you have superior weapons, they expect you to win. So a completely unfair fight is the only way. What if you have completely equal weapons?
Yes. Or maybe, say, a different sort of system on the two ships.
Minor differences in your abilities, instead of the Enterprise is going to just destroy you in one shot.
Yes. It's like, maybe the Hathaway has very good long-range weapons, but is terrible up close. So as long as they can get away from the Enterprise, they'll be okay. But, if they end up right next to it, well, they're doomed.
Wesley has a line later on that sums up the entire thing, where he just says, well, if this doesn't work, the Enterprise will just waltz over and pulverize us.
Yep. So, we gotta have to be able to pull some tricks out here, because, this is really kind of ridiculous.
So they find that the ship is actually warp capable. There's no cracks in the containment housing and whatever, and they have a little bit of dilithium, but they don't have any antimatter, which means they can't power the ship, essentially.
Well, I guess boot up some fusion reactors to keep the main power going for the time being, and do whatever that the Enterprise has to generate antimatter. You can just do that, right?
Yeah, you should be able to do something, but maybe this ship is pre-antimatter generation.
That's a little weird.
Like how the original Enterprise was.
Yeah. So you have to refuel every once in a while as opposed to self-generating.
Yeah. So Wesley goes back to the Enterprise, even though it's technically against the rules, because he has to dispose of a dangerous experiment he was running, because it's antimatter reaction that he's studying. But oh no, he left it alone for too long because he forgot. He was excited, and it's too bad. He has to beam it into space, which happens to be the Hathaway's engine room.
Yes, it's in space now. Don't check the coordinates. Bye.
I mean, we were already in space.
True.
Worf begins preparing ways to trick the Enterprise into seeing other ships attacking it by entering codes and such, and pulling fiber optic cables out of the ceiling.
Yeah, as you do.
That was always one of the fun ones. It's like, where do I get the fiber optic cable for that? Wherever.
Yeah, we don't need all the bells and whistles on this ship here. We just
like
need
this one that's hanging loose is obviously not doing anything important.
Yes.
Wesley and LaForge can also use the antimatter to do a quick warp jump and or destroy the engine entirely. One of those.
Yes. Yeah, so either they'll be over there or exploded.
Well, they'll stall out. They're not going to blow up from that, but the engine will stop working. Pulaski convinces Kolrami to play against Data in Stratagema. Much to Data's surprise, the crew all go to chant him on as he loses.
Yes.
Almost as quickly as Riker did.
Yeah, it's like, well, crap. Pulaski, why did you make this really embarrassing thing happen to me?
So Data sequesters himself in his room and refuses to do duties because he obviously is defective and fallible.
Well, I guess welcome to reality?
Well, like, he should have been able to do this thing, and he made no mistakes, and he lost.
Maybe there's an important lesson we can have out of this.
Troy and Pulaski try to cheer him up, but they can't get him to regain his confidence because, he didn't do anything wrong, so there's something wrong with me. My thinking is faulty. They get the captain to go talk some sense into him, and Picard orders Data to get better.
Yes.
Says,
stop moping.
And then he has the central message of this whole arc, which is it is possible to make absolutely no mistakes and still lose. That's just life.
Yeah, that's actually good advice. There are many a time in my own life where it's like, yeah, I kind of did everything I was supposed to, but I kind of got screwed over in the end. Sometimes it was intentional by people, but sometimes it was just matters of happenstance, and, well, you gotta kind of live with it.
Yeah. And this is why I hate engineers and how they teach math. Because I had a roommate in college who was getting a degree in engineering, and half of his classes were build robots to fight each other, and whatever the bracket list of your cool engineering robot will be your grade. It's like, but if everyone built exactly the same machine, somebody would still get a failing grade.
Yes. That would actually be an interesting thing to try in a class like that. Yes, let's all design together a standard robot and have them completely the same.
I would do that. I would just organize everyone together. It's like, we are all going to build exactly the same thing. And we're going to prove to this stupid teacher that this is the dumbest way to grade classes. But, they're engineers. Oh, my God. Anyway, sorry. I grew up around too many engineers. I have a grudge.
Well, as a physicist, I also have kind of a grudge against engineers. Sorry, Zach. But, and Max and, other Zach. And anyway, it is, it's still sort of a weird sort of cultural, rivalry that's nobody takes really seriously. But there is, when we're actually trying to work together, a lot of moments where like, okay, we're clearly talking about completely different things, but using the same language for it. So we need to fix this.
So anyway, we now have Data. Data is more confident again. And he goes over Riker's tactical knowledge. He analyzed all of Riker's past fights and assignments and things and realized that he does not really have consistent tactics other than he is untraditional. He only uses traditional tactics less than 40% of the time.
So I guess we should be on the keeping the eye out for something weird happening.
Yeah, but he might know that, so he might go back to traditional tactics. But he might expect them to know that because they know him, so he might go back to his unconventional tactics.
I have gone cross-eyed, Gepwin.
But the gist is basically the weaker the position that Riker is in, the harder he will fight everyone around him.
Well, I guess that means he has a bit of spunk in him. How do you feel about that, Kohlrami? Ho-ho!
Kohlrami winds up really liking Riker by the end of this whole thing. Even though he's portrayed as a cowardly dick at certain points. But
yes.
So they begin their battle simulation. Riker immediately uses his trick to create Romulan warbirds. The Enterprise responds by changing all their weapons over and turning around and trying to defend, and then the Hathaway blasts their reshields, doing like a ton of damage.
Oh no, the Enterprise is going to be destroyed by the fake lasers.
Picard orders them to change the Enterprise command codes, which maybe that should be like just standard operating procedure. Yes. Anytime a officer leaves the ship. This seems to happen all the time. You have a pretty fatal flaw in your programming here. If you have absolutely no way to detect that the command is coming from outside of the ship.
Which I guess, is something we've technically seen before back in Star Trek II, when it's like, oh no, our shields are falling because they hacked our ships by using the codes we, left open and let them talk to our computer. Anyway.
Which, like, that makes sense because a non-Starfleet crew took over and didn't know how to safeguard against these things.
Oh.
But this one, that just seems like a very large security error that you have there.
Yes.
So they detect a Ferengi ship now, and they assume that it's a trick because they just got tricked. It's like, haha, you won't trick us twice. But then the Ferengi actually shoot them, and that locks the Enterprise's weapons into the computer weapons that actually don't do anything.
Well, I guess we don't have any weapons to fight the Ferengi. Wait, why do we need to fight the Ferengi?
Because the Ferengi want the secrets of the other ship, because if they're attacking it, it has to be valuable, right? And they have 10 minutes before they just destroy both of them. Because the Ferengi are just dumb. They're just stupid.
Well, yeah. Also, there's something you could do that might solve the situation, Picard. You could tell the Ferengi, oh, we're doing a war game. Would you like to participate? We can show you how.
Yeah. Do you want to play with us?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, this might be a great way to...
There's no profit in that. Stupid humans.
You get the profit of, being better able to fight people.
So Karami is a big fan of strategically running the hell away and leaving everyone else to die. But strategically.
Yeah, so he's using some cold equation math here, and I don't like it.
They're in a bad place, though. With a lot of work, the Enterprise could probably fire a few photons, but they won't do much against a Ferengi. For some reason, their ships seem to be absurdly powerful for the level of technology they demonstrate them having, but okay.
Well, I guess the Ferengi, are very good at, making sure that they are in a position of strength when they go into situations, both in terms of, deals generally, as well as, their military capabilities. You don't want to be flying into, Federation space where you don't really know what's going on yet before, the series starts here, and find yourself wildly outmatched. So make sure your ships are up to snuff in order to defend themselves and, maybe kick some ass along the way. Maybe have smarter crews in charge too.
I think one of the things that they didn't really get right with the, Ferengi, ultra-capitalist, whatever, is they should have access to all of the same technology because they're master traders, negotiators, etc. But because they are cheap as fuck, they don't put any of it on their ships because it would be expensive. And their ships would obviously be built by the lowest possible bidder, which means they should be falling apart constantly. And they're too cheap to repair them. Because that's how a capitalist would work in space. Just look at, SpaceX.
Yeah.
And how many of their rockets are exploding.
Yeah, and the launch pads as well,
Yeah. Anyway, so they can't destroy the Ferengi because they've only got a photon or two that they could fire. But
just shove it in the tube and turn it on, and it'll eventually fall out.
But as Riker points out, they could destroy the Hathaway.
Well, bye, Riker.
So Riker informs them that they have warp drive. Now, it's impossible. It should be impossible. But hey, you wanted me to cheat, so I cheated.
Yep.
So if they time it very, very exactly, they can warp away just before the photons explode. And Worf can use the same trick that he used on the Enterprise against the Ferengi because he also knows their command codes for some reason, apparently.
This would have been a perfect moment to actually showcase what you just talked about there. That's Worf is like, I recognize this computer system. It's one that is based off of Federation design. I can also interject code into this to make it confused about what's going on.
They never do that with Ferengi, Packlids, anybody who uses scavenged tech. They never go well, I recognize this thingy, so we can use that, which means that your people would be smart instead of not.
Lucky.
I think this is the reason that people get nitpicky and talk about plot holes and things in Star Trek specifically. Because when you are literally making up everything, there's no excuse for having a plot hole. because you could just put in half a line of dialogue that says, and we can do that because of the Ferenginator, and there you go.
Yes, the Ferenginator. It is your catch-all doohickey for when you need a plot device that covers up your plot holes and lets people not worry about it anymore. Buy a Ferenginator tonight.
So they have a plan, but as we said earlier, there's sort of a 50-50 chance that this warp drive isn't going to do anything, in which case the Hathaway will really be blown to hell.
Well, bye, Riker.
So Picard contacts the Ferengi, yells, "I deny you your prize," and then fires at the Hathaway.
It's like, well, okay, I guess we're not going to profit from this. Bye.
Bactor's about to destroy the Enterprise out of anger. Then he detects another Federation ship approaching. They beam everyone back on board, of course, and set course to the nearest starbase.
Hooray, we won.
The Hathaway is just there, I guess.
Yes.
Also, the people in the Enterprise are still stupid because, I don't detect another ship. It's like, yeah, because that was the entire plan. Thanks for paying attention. This is why you listen during the meetings.
Yes. Come on, guys. Pay attention.
Then, later, Riker and Pulaski go to see the rematch that Data's having with Karami. They have been playing for longer than any game of Strategema has ever lasted. Eventually, Karami just forfeits and leaves, and Data explains that he stopped trying to win. He had the intention of playing to a draw, so he was giving up obvious winning strategies that Karami would expect him to use and then exploit. So he messed up Karami's strategy, and that let Data, rough him up a little bit.
Yeah. And Data, being that doesn't really tire in the traditional sense, is up against someone with a little bit more flesh and bone onto them that might not tire easily, but is eventually going to get tired of this crap and, give up.
I mean, they didn't do that. Eventually, he would have made a mistake, and then Data could have won, but what they did was have him get angry and leave, which... He goes that's not winning. It's like, no, in literally any game ever made... Flipping the table and leaving is you forfeiting, which means you won. Yes. That's how it works.
Yes. It's it's not like it's Karl Marx at a table of Monopoly throwing the table over and saying revolution. That's not how this is going here. This is this guy has given up the game because he doesn't want to play anymore and thus is conceding. So
yeah,
that's good enough.
That's that. You won. Good job.
Yeah,
you did it.
Did you like my existential comics reference there?
I don't think I've seen that, but
it's fun stuff.
I do know that Monopoly was originally made as a capitalist critique, and then when it was bought by Hasbro, it was turned into a capitalist celebration.
Yep, but still, there's only one winner at the end, right? So it's still kind of a critique.
Except you win. You win by doing Monopoly. Though you could possibly say that you lose because you've made everyone else homeless and now you can't buy food because even though you can afford it, no one can afford to make it.
Yes.
And then you starve to death. Either that or your money is now worthless because no one else has any. So what are you going to do?
Congratulations. You can buy nothing because nothing's being produced. And you can buy nothing because your money doesn't matter anymore.
So really the end point of Monopoly after you do all of that should be leveraging whatever social capital you've managed to build up to convince your security guards to keep guarding you from the horde after money has become worthless.
Yes. Maybe, security guards, you get houses. We'll try not to upgrade those to hotels while you're not looking. And also for food... we got this big thing that we borrowed from this train guy that makes these bars of gelatin, and it'll be great. You'll love it.
What do you have on the Monopoly board? You've got a giant dog, which I guess you could get some meat out of that.
Yes.
Other than that, boil the top hat, I guess.
I'm going to eat my hat. Oh, Oh, maybe I have to feed it to these guys first. They're looking kind of hungry. Then they have guns. This whole neo-feudalism thing isn't working out so well.
Neo-feudalism is... oh, no, that's techno-feudalism is the internet. Neo-feudalism would be what we get after they become all baronies. I don't know what that would be in the post-apocalypse no-money society that they're trying to create.
Oh, now I'm also thinking about the film High Rise, but it's not quite science fiction. So I don't think it's something we would cover in this.
This is a war game episode, and everybody's mostly just having fun. And then they pull out a trick that they were going to use on the Enterprise against the Ferengi, and then they win. There's not a lot of deep happening here.
Not really. No, I guess we could talk about games of some sort.
Well, it is interesting. The strategy game thing. Something that I don't find it that annoying. I know some people who find it mildly annoying that you have games like Stratagema in this world is obviously just chess, but everybody plays chess, so it's not impressive anymore.
It's space chess.
The idea that, like, because you are good at this thing, you are a master strategist or tactician or whatever. It's like being good at a game like chess makes you good at exactly one thing, and that is playing chess.
Yes.
And that's good. It's great that you want to be good at playing chess and you got good at playing chess, but it makes you good at playing chess and not much else.
If there's something with similar sort of rule sets, say chess variants, you could probably be pretty good at those too.
Yeah, like I'm crap at playing chess. I'm not bad at playing Stratego. Those have no compatible strategy crossover, so I'm really bad at one and fairly good at the other. Yeah.
But you move pieces on a board, Gepwin. They're exactly the same. But yeah, I guess going back to the thing I mentioned earlier about me being pretty good at EU4, Europa Universalis 4, for those unaware, it is, there are other games that are in sort of the similar genre that I also tend to be pretty good because I am kind of, down on the basics of this one particular game. But that doesn't mean that I'm well situated for running an actual nation. It doesn't mean I'm able to, lead a army into battle, or I'm capable of, sorting out the, trade plan for an entire part of the world, or even just a small city state. It's, these are all various things that are touched upon in a game like that, but it doesn't actually translate into actually having the full skill sets for the totality of what's being simulated.
Yeah, the idea of the game is kind of like a, you could get into like simulation and simulacrum sort of idea in these kinds of war game things, especially because it's like you're simulating all of the stuff so that you can practice in a safe situation where you don't have to deal with all the other things. And theoretically, that lets you practice enough that when you hit the actual situation, you're better at it. But the actual situation has stress and the fear of death and all this other stuff, which is why I think we really like this war game episode keeps popping up in all kinds of different media franchises. Because, like, the Enterprise is a big, cool ship with lots of guns on it, and they don't like using it because the whole thing is about peace and whatever, and you have to put your characters in danger, and it's stressful. But if it's all, here's a fun war game, you can just imagine, like, yeah, that would be cool. I could be on the ship and play war games and shoot space lasers and be the best.
And it's all okay because no one's really getting hurt.
Yeah, everyone's having fun and it's just enjoyable. You're doing interesting strategic things and making up rules.
And it's exciting. It's fun. There's no tragedy involved. It's a little bit of a divergence from what fighting actually is like. Maybe there's an allegory here that it's all fun and games until someone loses their entire body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can look at this game simulation thing. If anyone who has ever tried to like make their own game up, you wind up with all these grand plans and ideas, and then somebody tries to do something outside of your scope, and then you have to adjust your rules and do something else. And the more, the simpler you want it to be, checkers, You move the pieces around a board a little bit. You have some extra rules for certain things, but really it's got like 5 rules in the whole game, and it's got a very limited scope, and it's a relatively easy to learn game. But you know, Dungeons and Dragons has 7 multi-chapter rule books to try to have a rule for every possible contingency of that anyone could ever do, and,
and
they still
that's
don't.
not enough.
And then you still have to make things up later on the fly.
And you know, and that's if you're just playing Dungeons and Dragons without, you know, say, you know, additional books for specialty classes or, you know, alternative settings and the like, which can have their own sets of additional rules on top of that, which you know, also still don't cover everything.
Somewhat an interesting point I saw in a video the other day. I forget what it was about, who made it, so I apologize, but that they said that for games, Freedom is a very, very large rule book.
Yes.
Because the rules of the game is what defines the entire parameters of the game. The more rules, the more individual rules and things you have, the more you can do, because otherwise it's outside of the scope of the game. The rules define the scope of your game world.
They provide the mechanics to use.
There was an interesting book a while back that I read called, where are we? Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal, which she's got some interesting points. I don't agree with all of her ideas in that, which is basically you can gamify the world into a better place. But
yeah, the thing's a little more complicated than that, but yeah, I get where they're going for.
But she did start with what I think is a very good, easy definition of what a game is, which is essentially a simple task that you have put artificial constraints on to make it more difficult. Like if you take golf at its simplest form is you take a ball and you put it in a hole. And that is actually a very easy task that most people would be able to do without much of a problem.
Yes.
But that's not very interesting or fun or challenging. So you put a bunch of stuff between you and the hole, and you put the hole really far away, and then you have to hit the ball with a stick.
Yes, you know, you can't just, you know, carry it over there. You have to, you know, hit it in a impulse fashion with this device.
And now all of a sudden you have this artificial world, which is the golf course. And within this artificial world, you have to live by a completely separate set of artificial rules that are enforced socially by the other people playing the game with you. Because you're not allowed to pick up the ball and move it or throw it or kick it. And if you do, everybody else says, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And they shame you for it, essentially. You can get docked rules, but the real... you can get docked points, but the real actual consequence is social. Everyone goes, hey, you cheat at this game.
Yeah, so, you know, if you want to, you know, count this as a win for you, we're not going to count it. So, yeah.
Yeah, you can spend all day going, hey, I won. But we're going to go, no, you didn't. We saw you kick the ball into the hole.
Your foot is not a club. Sorry.
And then they won't want to play with you again.
Yes.
Was an interesting idea I saw a while back. There was an interesting sociologist talk I saw a while ago that I'm not going to be able to find now, so apologies for not being able to cite it fully. But he was using this idea to explain the way that people socially interact. It was a thing he was calling the path of least resistance. Because when you're playing Monopoly, you are operating by a set of rules defined by the game in this little artificial world where the rules of social interaction are different than they normally would be as defined by the game rules. And no one should want to do that because it's kind of stupid. Like, you should be able to do basically whatever you want in Monopoly, and no one can actually stop you. But the reason that you don't, or never even try, is because that's just the social path of least resistance. As long as everyone follows the rules in the back of the box, no one's going to complain, and as long as no one complains, everything's very easy and streamlined, and everyone can enjoy themselves. But when someone breaks a rule in the back of the box, everyone complains about it. You've now created social resistance, and your general goal in most social interactions with most people is going to be to avoid social resistance. So whatever is the easiest thing to do socially that's not going to create pushback from other people is what you wind up doing most of the time.
Indeed. I guess I do have a weird counterexample of that sort of thing. The game Munchkin. It is in the rule book that if there is a dispute in the rules, you must have a loud argument.
But that's still the accepted social parameter as
Exactly.
set forth by the game.
But it's a little less easy, I guess. The least resistance might be to ignore the rule.
He was using it as an interesting example of the ways that you can alter behavior fairly easily if you create a certain amount of social resistance.
Yes.
Because say you're all hanging out in a group and someone sells a off-color joke that people don't really like. Like, most people are going to not say anything because that's usually the easiest thing to do in that situation. But if someone pushes back on the joke a little bit and goes, hey, that's not a cool thing to do, now the joke has social resistance. And so the next time the person is going to be less likely to do that because they know they will experience social resistance for saying that joke again.
Indeed. Though I have seen situations where that resistance doesn't crop up, but that's usually because somebody's drunk.
Yeah.
And they don't quite get it into their head.
It doesn't always work. Obviously, people are going to do it to various degrees, but it's just generally, most of the time, when people are just generally interacting, you're usually going to do the thing that's easiest to do.
There are always going to be contrarians or edge cases, but, for the general flow of things, yeah, this is kind of how things go.
Yeah, that's about as much of game world as I can get. It's a really interesting, weird sociological concept because you are creating a shared reality that exists only within the game, does not exist outside of the game, is agreed on by all parties in the game, and is a complete social construct that
Indeed.
Everyone just agrees on and works with for the purposes of enjoying themselves. As so far as everything is a social construct, but we don't really have time to break that one down.
I guess there's something I actually do in some of my writing. So the novel manuscript I'm trying to get published still, Europa. There is the first chapter features the main character playing a game with one of their associates, and the social construct of it is that this is a challenge, and you say you're good at video games in general. I'm challenging that, so let's play a game of my choosing. But the sort of meta game that kind of goes on top of that is the being tricky about the choice, so that you find a game that you are very good at, but are going to be sort of selling it as a game that they are going to assume is of a different type, so that they get studied up and practiced on something completely useless, so that you still have an advantage, even if they were to say figure out the specific game, the specifics of what you're trying to do, because they can't. Dun dun dun. And so I guess I have a little bit of fun when it comes to that sort of thing, that sometimes the social construct around a game can be more complicated than at first glance. I guess the sort of classic example of that would be games like Diplomacy, where it's like, okay, the rules are actually pretty straightforward on how you sort of do things. Like, if you do this, you can potentially take over territory, and then then stuff happens and all that. But the real play comes in to the negotiations of, all right, if I do this, I need to make sure someone doesn't at the same time stab me in the back. Or the person that's supposed to be helping me do this thing is not going to suddenly not and leave me hanging in defeated. And, so there's a lot of sort of building up of sort of social relationships there, and trying to build trust levels that is not in the rules at all. And so you get this sort of extra level of sort of ad hoc rules being developed by the players themselves as things progress. And so you get more than what's written on the page. And, I kind of, like that sort of thing in terms of the possibilities of games. That the rules as written, might be the path of least resistance, but if they're written well, then they could also encourage a little bit more complexity to what's going on. So not just complicated, not just complicating the situation, but adding more depth to the whole experience. And so you might still have a bit of, this is the rules of being nice to your friends going on here, but at the same time, you're all having this sort of, core thing of wanting to win the game. And in order to do that, you might have to be a little shady about some things with some folks, and also, be fully on board with other things at the same time. And this, and so it sort of builds this, new level of interaction with people that is completely motivated by that core desire to win the game. But let's say you didn't want to win the game. You wanted to, say, play it to a draw. Then things become so much more simple. You just need to keep anyone else from actually succeeding in anything. And to do that is a lot less intensive in terms of interactions. You can observe people trying to forge an alliance to do X, Y, or Z, and you can do what you need to in order to foil that, even if it results in nothing happening. And there's some interesting stuff you can sort of play with in terms of taking a different approach to behavior in a game like that.
Yeah, you've got a whole genre of things now, like the Secret Hitler, Spy, Among Us is the popular one at the minute, where the game rules are designed to create distrust, paranoia, or some other particular thing that plays with the actual people in the real world, more outside of the constructed world of the game itself.
I kind of wish I'd actually sat down to play that board game of The Thing. Though that might have been the one where the you don't even necessarily know that you are on a certain team or not. So
that one's fun. That's interesting.
Yes.
There's a story that keeps going around of a classroom exercise that someone did where they were talking about mob hysteria, essentially. And they said that they were going to go around the room and tell a certain number of people in the class, like tell people in the class whether they were a witch or not. That was the only thing. I'm going to go around, I'm going to tell everyone in the class whether or not they are a witch. And I want you to create a group with no witches in it. And they eventually break everything up. They do this whole thing. They find different ways of determining who's a witch or not. They separate themselves out. And then at the end, the teacher goes, I told absolutely no one in the room they were a witch.
So how many people did you burn at the stake this time, kids?
Yeah, how many people got ostracized or kicked out of the group or put in other groups because you just didn't like the look of them or whatever?
I guess there is maybe one easy way out of that one. Everyone forms a group of one. Then you got at least one group without, assuming that there's, not all witches.
Yeah, I forget if it was all like create a group with nothing, or if it was create two groups and one should be no witches and one should be all witches. But of course, you're not allowed to say whether or not you are.
Going back to EU4 stuff there for just a moment. Are you familiar with the multiplayer game I played with Bill Culp back in the day?
No, I don't know much EU at
all.
Well,
it was also with a few other friends of mine there, Tyaneer, Minx, and Wiz, and Bill, of course, and myself. And we were having a good time playing, building our empires, etc., etc. And Tyaneer is he's a good guy, but he can get very proud of his accomplishments in that particular game there, and so he was also in a very strong position in terms of sort of the basic things that the game is sort of has a slant for, in terms of generally being an easier play for those starting in Europe as compared to everywhere else. And so, he started in Europe, I started in Southeast Asia, so there was a little bit of a friendly rivalry between the two of us. And I figured out a brilliant strategy on how to take land from him successfully. And do you know how I did that?
Did you just ask?
Sort of, actually, but I didn't ask him. I did a secret deal with Bill, actually. That I would declare war on Bill, who was allied with Tyoneer, and then at some point into the war, I would offer Bill a peace deal that would give me a bunch of Tyoneer's land.
And that's how you wind up with the current Middle East crisis.
Kind of. It was mostly land in India, but But yeah, it was a rather intense game there, and of course, immediately after that, he turns on Bill, so I had to come to Bill's aid. The game continued for a little bit after that. Anyway, but it is one of those my favorite examples of sometimes you can play a game that is different than the one that's obviously going on here. There can be secret alliances.
And that's how you do a colonialism.
Yes. Though I was actually playing Malaysia, so I was being an anti-colonialist, I guess. Even though I settled bits of Africa and South America. Anyway, it was a wild time.
It's okay. That's
so once again fun. We've gotten back to colonialism.
We did it. That's usually our cue to go to the galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the galaxy's favorite game show. Our various contestants here have been trying really hard to get lots of points here, and there's a lot of holograms and finger doohickeys with wires. Yep, and what are they doing? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, why do they need that many controls?
Yeah, maybe there's more dimensions to what's going on here than we realize. Anywho, let's start handing out some prizes because we got some people who got scores that they got high enough on. The first one is the Worf effect, which goes to Data for losing to Kohlrami. Don't worry, Data. You get your revenge in the end. What does he win, Gepwin?
Data wins some bling, because Worf gets, like, a sash and some other cool shit, and, to make up for the fact he gets beat up all the time, he gets extra uniform stuff. So Data should get to just, like, I don't know, have a cool android pin or something.
Like maybe a big H on his forehead. Wait, wrong series. Anyway, our second prize is the Surprise Blind Date prize, which goes to Pulaski for secretly issuing a challenge on Data's behalf. Seriously not cool, but I guess it helped us learn a lesson or something. What does she win, Gepwin?
Pulaski gets a reality show, which is going to be entertaining because it's like a matchmaker reality show where somebody just sets up your stuff, but she's so absurdly bad at it that everything ends in basically an armed conflict.
Oh my. I guess do no harm is maybe not what Dr. Pulaski is up to anymore. Oh dear. Anyway, our final prize for today is Silent Death, which goes to Riker for being given a barely working starship for the whole war game stuff there. Especially when you realize, oh yeah, there's a holodeck on our ship. Maybe we can use that, and we could have all done all this when everything would done perfectly the same, and we don't have to actually worry about the Ferengi. But anywho, what does Riker win, Gepwin?
Riker wins the alternate ending that they should have had for him getting to take some amount of revenge on Kohlrami for the whole, leaving him to die nonsense. Which is, since he got to play Stratagema, Kohlrami should get to take part in an ancient Earth strategy and tactics game that Riker happens to be kind of good at, called boxing.
So, Kohlrami, you want to keep your hands up like this. Stop. Less cowering, please. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another game where you put bulky things on your hands and...
Mm-hmm. And
should be right up his alley.
Yeah. There's just less of them. Should be more simple, right?
Yeah. I think you could have just ended the whole episode with Riker leaving with him. It's like, have you heard of boxing? The ancient human strategy challenge.
Yes. So Kohlrami, you might want to get a tooth guard thingamajig, mouth guard going set up there. Because, you're going to get a beat down. Anyway, that's all I got here today, Gepwin. Feel free to take us away.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and thanks for joining us on the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! Well, then, we just got a little bit more left, don't we?
No, I think that was it. That's the end of the season, right?
Pretty much,
I've never seen an episode after this one.
Yeah, well, at least not a whole episode, right?
Yeah, guess we've seen between 1 and 10 episodes left in this season, depending on how you count.
Well, maybe we'll have an interesting adventure with a lot of guest stars.
Yeah, it's lots of guest stars.
Yes, lots of guest stars that are showing up for the first time, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, this is of course the infamous the worst episode in Star Trek's history. Though I feel like that's a little unfair because, of course, this one would be. You should just kind of leave this out of the running.
Yeah. Well, there is Code of Honor, which I say is still worse for other reasons.
Yeah.
But this one is dull.
Yeah, so now we have Shades of Grey, which, thankfully for everyone involved everywhere, is Star Trek's one and only clip show.
Mm-hmm. They decided after this, we're not really good at this clip show thing. We're going to leave that to Stargate.
Yeah. We can't do it. Can't do it at all. Stargate can do one clip show a bloody season.
And it actually works.
Oh, sort of. Works as well as a clip show can. Yeah.
Yes. Their clip shows at least have interesting plots other than, we have a vague excuse. Their clip shows are like, we're going to have this going on here, and it moves the larger plot forward. So,
yeah, their clip shows are a little bit more of a previously on. Mm-hmm. But still, I hate them and skip them.
Yes. I still like the one where they're talking to the various foreign leaders and, it's like, and Commander, Thor here, no, Supreme Commander.
That's the only good bit at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, clip show. Next time.
Yeah, next time. The clip show. The clippiest of shows.
Oh no, Clippy.
Yeah, Clippy. Badgy. Yeah, that's it. Clip show. Next time. Don't I don't know. You could listen if you want.
I think we can make something interesting out of this.
I mean, if nothing else, you're going to have to listen to us watch a clip show. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, we suffer, so you don't have to.
Yeah, we'll make it interesting for you guys. Promise. Yeah. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow. I've seen this one before, actually. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.